Brantford-Brant.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Last December, I asked the Minister of Finance if she's heard from Canadians about all the difficulties that people are facing these days. I highlighted how dire and tragic the situation really was, as parents have to choose between putting food on their table or buying clothing for their kids. That Canadians were finding it increasingly hard to keep up with the rising prices on just about everything. In her reply, the Finance Minister said that I was talking down on the Canadian economy. Knowing that her answer was filmed and would be watched by my constituents in Brantford-Brant and many others across this great country, she rhymed off a number of abbreviated references that mean nothing to hardworking Canadians and brought up our net debt to GDP ratio, like it had anything to do with my question. And then she added that Canadians should be proud of our economic recovery. One of my constituents, Ben, commented under that particular video, quote, "The arrogance of this minister's tone is so disrespectful. The Liberals do not look out for the everyday Canadians," end of quote. Another constituent, Bren, said as follows, "I don't believe there is a politician out there today that will answer a direct question on point. It seems there is no direct interest in showing what is truly happening in Canada today." Crystal commented, quote, "Well said. I got lunch snacks the other day, literally 3 bags of food, and it cost me $120. I remember when $100 used to fill my cart." Madam Speaker, this is what Canadians are saying, and the government must listen to them. Recently, I rose in the House and brought to the government's attention the following: that Canada's inflation is reaching a 30-year high, that gasoline is over $1.50 a litre on average, that nearly 60% of Canadians are finding it difficult to feed their families. And throughout this year, thanks to just inflation, people have to find an additional $1,000 for groceries because everything is going up. And if that's not bad enough, the government recently announced that the CPP tax would be an extra $700 coming out of families' paychecks. Again, I said to this government that may mean nothing to the Prime Minister, but it matters to everybody else. Just inflation, Madam Speaker, is making life harder for everybody. They earn less, they spend more, they save nothing, and accumulate more debt. Canadians are concerned, worried, and stressed. The mental health crisis does not only exist in the government's talking points, it is real. It is a reality that people are facing each and every day. Madam Speaker, it's a well-known fact around the globe that this Liberal government has spent the most money on its pandemic response and achieved the least. They printed money and irresponsibly distributed, such as to prisoners. They sent millions to help wealthy corporations that were profitable during the pandemic and simply used those funds to pay dividends to their shareholders. They paid Chinese state-owned companies while small businesses and communities from coast to coast to coast struggled to get their well-deserved support. At the same time, while free cash flows left and right, this Liberal government is delaying many important projects due to a lack of funding. Gawenio School is a federally funded elementary and secondary school with 145 students located in my riding on 6 nations of the Grand River Territory. For over 30 years, this school has provided instructions to its students in Mohawk and Cayuga until the 8th grade when English is introduced. They are in urgent need of funding for a new school. Currently, lessons are being delivered in a space leased from the privately owned Iroquois Lacrosse Arena. The classrooms are...
I'm sorry. Unfortunately, the honourable member's time is up. He'll be able to continue under his 1 minute after the honourable parliamentary secretary to the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance has a chance to respond. The honourable parliamentary secretary.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'll try to provide as fulsome answer as I can in response to my honourable colleague who just rose in the House. Canadians can rest assured that our government takes the rising cost of living seriously and has been very focused on addressing issues surrounding affordability for Canadian families. Canadians know all too well that the global pandemic continues to impact our everyday lives in a variety of ways. COVID inflation is a global phenomenon, and it is caused by economic complications, which include the challenging economic impact of the pandemic itself and the unprecedented challenge of reopening the world's economy, something that we've never had to do before. Indeed, the Bank of Canada and other private sector economists anticipate that inflation may stay higher for somewhat longer than initially expected, but they also expect it to ease back towards 2%, the 2% target, over the next 2 years. That being said, Canadians should rest assured that when it comes to essential government programs that families rely upon, the government has had the foresight to utilize inflation indexing. The Canada Child Benefit, a program which has lifted hundreds of thousands of Canadian children out of poverty and helped this government reduce poverty rates to historic lows, continues to be indexed to the cost of living. This is also true for old age security, the guaranteed income supplement, the credit for goods and services tax, and other benefits that some of our most vulnerable Canadians rely upon. I would remind the member that our government also moved to cut taxes for the middle class while raising them on the top 1%. In addition, we have made major investments in affordable housing, launching a historic $72 billion national housing strategy. We have also lowered the qualifying retirement age for seniors from 67 years to 65 years, putting thousands of additional dollars in seniors' pockets when they reach retirement age. And we are working to build a national early learning education and child care framework. This program will not just create tens of thousands of jobs, but reduce the average cost of childcare by 50% within a year and to $10 a day over the next 5 years. This will not only make life more affordable for young families, but also get parents back into the workforce and help grow the middle class while giving every child a real and fair chance at success. I would also remind the member opposite that on December 13th, our government and the Bank of Canada announced the renewal of the 2% inflation target for the Bank of Canada for another 5-year term. This renewed framework will keep the bank focused on delivering low, stable, and predictable inflation in Canada as we continue to help support Canadians through this historic crisis. So, Madam Speaker, as you can see, our government is already working hard to address the cost of living and to make life more affordable for Canadians. But we know that more is to be done, especially as we emerge from COVID-19. As we look to the years ahead, the government's focus will continue to be on jobs and growth and making life more affordable, priorities that will form the foundation of our upcoming budget. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Brantford-Brant.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Following up on my latter point before I ran out of time, Indigenous Services Canada has reviewed and supported the design brief for the new school on the Six Nations of the Grand River. They've confirmed that they consider this phase of the process complete. In fact, as he then was, Minister Miller attended during the 43rd Parliament. My apologies. The then Minister of Indigenous Services attended my riding, was toured the particular location, and agreed that the funding had to be made available for the completion of the new school. However, to this date, Madam Speaker, they still have not provided funding to actually build that school. The construction of the school is shovel-ready and should be funded. At a time when we see billions of dollars being irresponsibly spent, this Prime Minister and his government have turned a deaf ear to a request from the largest First Nations reserve in Canada. It's time they had one. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, by delivering significant fiscal policy support to Canadians during the pandemic and avoiding harmful austerity policies, we have seen a rapid and resilient recovery so far. In short, our government's economic plan is working. Canada has exceeded its goal in creating 1 million jobs well ahead of schedule and expectations. In fact, Canada's job recovery is amongst the strongest in the G7. And as of December, Canada has recouped 108% of the jobs lost in the depths of the pandemic compared to just 84% in the United States. In addition, just yesterday, data released outlined that as of November, Canada's GDP has now recouped all of its pandemic losses and surpassed its pre-pandemic level. We will continue to do whatever it takes to ensure Canada's economic recovery leaves no one behind, and we will do this by focusing on jobs, growth, and by making life more affordable for Canadians. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I look forward to working with that member to deliver affordability for all Canadians.